Hey, everybody. Welcome to part two. I got invited back, and I'm here with John and Kyle, and we're going to dive a little deeper into some of the things that were major takeaways from the big project that I've been working on in the past few years with Texas Children's. And I'm Rhona Vogt with Paige, and we were the designers on that project. And it was a great experience. I learned a lot, and we're here to talk again. And I'm so excited that Kyle and Grant invited me back.
Well
Awesome.
done. I think we should
Love
give
it.
her applause. There you
Right?
go. Very nice. Nice job.
Totally.
Whew.
Wow.
That's right.
All right.
Big breath.
Pressure's
Big
off.
breath.
Pressure's off. Thank you, Commander, for
Yes.
bringing this in. Rhona, so happy to have you back. So happy to have you back. Yeah, so right, listeners, we didn't finish our conversation with Rhona last time. We all walked away and we're like, there's so much more to peel apart here. And so we're here. We're peeling it apart now and digging further in. So let's jump right in.
Okay, let's
Yeah.
do it.
So I mean, we were left with so many different things coming through. I think what really resonated for me was the fact that you guys actually have a lot of fun when
All
you
right.
get together.
Hang on.
No,
Before we
what?
get in, so if you didn't listen to the first one,
No, you got to go back and listen to the first one,
just
Kyle.
yeah. Go back and listen to the first one. That's fine.
Get back there.
Pause, listen, and then come back. All right, fine. Go ahead. Recap, Kyle. Go. You go.
So, if you didn't listen to the first one, Rhona is architect in Houston, and she had the pleasure of working on a multi-year, very, very large design and construction project, which for those of you in the industry, you know, large multi-year design and construction projects often don't go great at the very end or during. Sometimes they can go pretty rough, but this one went extremely well. And so what we learned from Rhona on that first one was a number of things that she did as the architect project manager.
Yes.
And in that role, she intentionally helped set the culture of that project, the team, the core team, the expanded team, everybody involved in that project, to where that culture became so important that they still talk about it today. And what we heard was there were a lot of tactics, a lot of things, a lot of specific things that they did that really did help set that culture. And we spent most of our conversation talking about that particular project. Well, you fast forward, it's been a number of years since that project completed.
Mm-hmm.
And what we wanted to do was dive into a lot of the things, a lot of the things that have happened since, because often when you do have a very successful large project, the project ends, people celebrate, then they get sad, then they go back to work. And for some people, they're like, okay, that was a great project. Now we're going back to work. For others, there was a bunch of stuff in that project that I really want to go do. And now I'm telling everybody how awesome it was. And they're looking at me like I'm speaking a foreign language. Mm-hmm. And so we wanted to hear more from Rhona about what she's experienced since, because obviously it wasn't the only project she's worked on. She's worked on many, many projects, involved in many, many things since. And so we were really curious to know more about what happened since that project ended and to where you are today. So that, I think, kind of keys up where we're going to take this conversation.
Still go back and listen to the first episode.
That's right.
Thank you, Kyle. That was a super lead-in.
Cool. Well, I had to follow yours.
I'm like just jumping in. I want to just go. Let's go.
So
yeah, what have you been up to?
Well, I've been up to a lot of
Start
stuff.
there.
But I guess I want to say jumping in and the excitement and all of that to kind of harness that with a lot of people can be very amazing. So I just want to just mention that again. And it's kind of this intangible thing where everyone's like, well, how do we do it again? And I guess I just want to kind of take a step back and say, I want to give a public service announcement. And just say that a lot of people think architecture and building things is a very glamorous. It's not. There can be some glamour, but it takes a lot of hard work and a lot of grit to get it to the point where there's the glamour, and that's the, grand openings and celebrations and this and that. And so to make the nitty-gritty better, because it's hard, and in infusing it with fun, I think that kind of is where the excitement for the team grew and the passion for the work. So having fun is important, and we did a lot of strange things and graffiti boards and Jeopardy and all kinds of stuff like that. But we really took one of the lean principles, which is respect for people, and we really wanted to make sure everyone had what they need and the time they needed to get the stuff done. And that was one of our major tenets in the charter, was respect for one another. And I think we did it regularly at in many different ways in the project to make sure people knew what we were doing, why we were doing it, and where, the why, the where, the what, the how, all of it. If people don't know, they have a hard time understanding where they can help. And so we did a lot of work with that. Particularly, I think, as one of the takeaways, onboarding has been huge on subsequent projects that I've worked on. So very, very robust information is given to the team. So everyone knows things change. The scope changes, the schedule changes, the people change. There's always a lot that's in flux on a major project or a small project, but really kind of making a guide for the project so everyone can succeed has been particularly important for me in the work that I've done after the big one in North Austin.
So let's talk about some of the fun stuff first, because what you described brought up all kinds of visions and memories of very painful, forced, mandatory fun activities throughout the years in my working career. So clearly yours were not those types of experiences. And I think we've all been through it. Hey, we're doing the corporate picnic on Saturday. And you're like, really? That's Saturday? I got to bring my kids or, hey, this is going to be fun. We're going to do a 90s theme. And you're like, yeah. So
I love 90s themes.
Most people don't get super excited or consider these things fun, but somehow you made them fun and actually got people to participate and enjoy it. So how did you do that?
I guess maybe people trusted me to go along with the wacky things I was suggesting, or maybe I just felt like I had to put some of these things out there and just go with it and see what happened. But we did all sorts of things that were like really tiny or big. So like you can't just have fun all the time. There's a lot of work to be had. So we did fun things that kind of got us somewhere. So we did like graffiti boards or things like that to teach everyone on the team how to annotate virtually. So we did Pictionary, stuff like that. Then we also did stuff, and these are in meetings. You take a break in the meeting. Sometimes it would be in the middle or at the end to kind of leave everyone on a good note or kind of give everyone a boost of energy. Because when you're in 3-hour long meetings, you kind of everyone needs to have that stretch and stand up. They do it in baseball and so it just gets the energy levels back up. And when people have energy, they're paying better attention and absorbing more. So those were like small things. Oh, and then back to Jeopardy. We did stuff like do project acronyms as a category. It's stuff, if people know what you're talking about, it really helps. So we did medical terms, but we also did, Texas musicians and stuff like that. So that kind of stuff was fun, and we did it in meetings. And then we also did Halloween dress ups. We did, prizes for all of this. And we did we did crazy stuff for Halloween because everyone likes Halloween. So we did, besides the dress up stuff, did quizzes and things like that, on Boston history or, you know, scary Halloween trivia, stuff like that. But then we also had happy hours, and happy hours are important because everyone needs to kind of vent. So we had virtual ones, but then we had real ones once we could get back together. And then everyone couldn't believe how tall everyone was. It was amazing.
What?
Well, because we met so many people and we were only tiles on the screen. So I know Kyle's really tall, and Kyle knows I'm really short because we've met each other. But if we had only met here on a podcast, he would never know how tall I was because we're all scaled the same because we're in our little tile.
And you
Anyway,
don't automatically set your bottom of your tile to your chin.
like, hi, Kyle.
Some people do that, but I think that's more of a understanding technology.
Yeah.
Well, so it sounds like that's a mix. I mean, I love that. Those are some really great concrete things. And so there's a mix of things that are, sounds like, A, don't always take too much time, right?
Oh, no.
Because like you said, we got things to do. We have to
Yeah.
work, right? But I love that creative way of adding engagement, right? Right, making sure people are building connections with each other and just paying attention, staying attuned to right, what's going on.
Yeah, we
So
did all kinds of stuff, and it was great. And I also had music infused in it. And if we were doing exercises like, another lean tenet is continuous improvement, which we did focus on regularly during the project. Um, those, if you're in a mural board together or something, or Miro, whichever venue you use, um, instead of working quietly, I put music on that kind of coincided with the task at hand, and it just makes it more fun. It just gives everyone a little more.
that's
That's cool.
awesome.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So, have you been able to carry any of those forward? Because it sounds like you had, like you mentioned before, the way you got people engaged and participating in a let's say, more than cynical or burdensome way. People actually are like, okay, this is cool. I'll participate and see where it goes. I mean, that comes from spending a lot of time and building that trust and building those relationships that so many people's work and projects don't always have the luxury of doing. So have you been able to carry any of that stuff forward into, say, the baby projects or the mundane or the regular day-to-day ones?
Yes, I think, well, I mean, the easy one is to start a meeting with music. It's super easy, and it's definitely a crowd pleaser. If you play a song, if you pick a genre that someone likes, they will light up. So, yeah, that's easy. I think now most people have been trained on all these virtual tools that we collaborate in regularly now. So I haven't done that so much. But if we were to get, let's say a new user group and we're trying to get them to participate in drawings, which can be very scary for someone that's a non-designer, to have an architect say, "Oh, can you just draw that for me?" They might get a little nervous about it. So I would probably do another one of those exercises where it's like a graffiti board, because that's really quick and they like it. And then they're not shy about using the drawing tools. And then obviously I fully believe in onboarding as a tool, any scale. team. And so, giving everyone the information they need to succeed is super important, whether you're working with two people on a project or 20. And knowing, getting to a point when you're working with people to know how they work, and kind of getting that knowledge of, because everyone's a little different. Um, so kind of understanding all of that. So I've used team questionnaires since, and stuff like that, which seems a little less conventional, but it's fun information to have.
What kind of questions do you ask on your questionnaires?
If you like tea or coffee, um, stuff like that, which kind of just gets people, because people like talking about themselves. But then I also ask questions like, what's your, how do you prefer communicating with others? Or I ask what their favorite song is too, because that's really handy knowledge. If I know someone's going to be presenting and I play their song, that gives them an extra boost. But really, it's a scattering of just general information, but also meaty stuff. Like one other one is, if you volunteer, like, do you do any community services or volunteering? And so it's a way for people to connect with one another that I'm not necessarily facilitating, but they can facilitate themselves. So if there's two people that do Habitat for Humanity on a team, they could find that connection and maybe do great stuff together.
That's cool. That's cool. I like that idea of you're soliciting so you can do walk-up songs for people.
Oh, yeah.
That is
Oh,
amazing.
yeah. And then people forget that they've given you this information. It's like, you're playing my song. It's saying like, I'm also like secretly telling them that I care about them and I want them to succeed and do a great thing. It's like a little secret language.
It's not so secret, but so powerful at the same time.
Hmm.
That's really...
Yeah.
So what else?
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, what else have you been able to carry forward? Because anybody who works with any group of people, it doesn't matter if it's a architect, contractor, you can be in IT, you can be in software development, you can be in healthcare, you can be anywhere. If you work with a group of people and you meet on a regular basis, if you just have a song playing when the meeting is coming together, is what I'm hearing, that instantly sets a mood. Now, of course, you're going to be intentional about what you're playing. Now, if you're going back to, pure moods and pulling one of the great tracks from there, that's going to set a certain mood. If you're pulling, other music. But I love your idea of pulling music forward that people have told you that they like each and every time you gather.
Yeah, it's a sneaky thing. And it doesn't take a whole lot of time, but it's intentional. And I think it's a caring thing to do. And it's nice. I don't think everyone does that sort of stuff, on a project. And it really brings everyone together, I think. And I guess just back to the mood and all of that public service announcement, I have played songs that had explicit lyrics. So I try to make sure I don't do the non-explicit now. But yeah, it's just, you can do so many things in so many ways with just a song. You can be talking about, you know, very project specific stuff, or you could be doing other stuff, and it's just fun. Really, work is work, but if you're having fun while doing work, it makes it awesome. It makes the work more fun, and it's more enjoyable. I guess everyone got into their respective fields because they liked it, but you still have to work your 8-hour days plus. And so, to have enjoyment while doing so, it makes it really cool. Maybe there is some glamour in.
That's your glam rock. That's
Yes.
your go-to. I can totally see that. I mean, our working lives are, 30, 40 plus years, right? So sure, I mean, it's great to build in some fun, so you're not just
Hmm.
dreading what you're doing. That's a terrible place for folks to be. Certainly not, right? A place where we're creating connection and belonging. So, no, I love that. I love that. We've gotten some questions coming back. Like the whole idea of the onboarding thing, I think is really
Hmm.
interesting. And just being thoughtful, being mindful about it. You know, maybe share a little bit more? Like, what specifically are you seeing as being important to include in that onboarding document, even?
Hmm. Okay. So I guess I'm just going to preface everything I say with I think most people that have been in the business have kind of been that person that was thrown on a project at the last minute when everyone's hair is on fire. And there's so many things they're chasing around that they don't have a whole lot of time to kind of help you and really explain where you can be useful. Because if you're that person that's been thrown on a project team at the 11th hour, they need the help. They've probably been screaming that they needed help for a while, and you're finally there to help, but it's gone so far that they don't have enough time to actually give you all the information for you to be really, really, really help them. So typically, you have more time to think about it when you start a project, but oftentimes you don't think it's super important because you have your team's been established, let's say, and you've given them the information and you kind of think that's it. But I think if you keep a running bunch of documents to help people, it really makes it easier if you get someone later in a project. So, for instance, I'm a firm believer in org charts. If you know who's supposed to be doing what, it's a lot easier to go to them. If you don't know who to go to, it's hard. And that kind of that's scalable, I would say. So it could be a person or it could be a group of people. So, like on a big project, if you know who um, the lead architects are for a specific portion of the project, it would help if you don't work with them all the time. You can find that information and you can go to them. So org charts are huge for me. Where people file things is so important because you can waste a lot of time looking for things. And everyone has a different brain, and projects kind of have their own different brain as well. And so if you don't know where to go to find information, it's cumbersome. So it sounds silly, but it's important even when, all the people on your team, excuse me, should be used to the folder structure. I think everyone uses those folder structures differently depending on how they think. So I think that's huge. And I think we overlook it a lot because everyone says, oh, we have a folder structure. You should know where that is. No, everyone uses it differently. We do a lot of Bluebeam sessions. So we have a running log of all of them so that it's easy to go and find them because they can kick off the list that you have in Bluebeam, and then it's real hard to find if you don't have a log. Um, what else? We have all kinds of stuff. We have medical terms and all kinds of stuff that all of this resides in a Teams channel for us so that it's easy to find. So we have a lot of references in there, including like standards that we use and all of that stuff. So it's all in a repository that's easy to find and it's at everyone's fingertips. So
So it sounds like,
go
I
ahead.
mean, what you're describing is you can onboard again to any team that's in the middle of doing something. So a new person who shows up, what you're talking about is make sure that the existing team takes a few minutes to
Hmm.
no different than onboarding a new employee. Show them where stuff is. Show them how to
Yeah.
access things. Explain the basic rules of how we interact with each other. Go through, make them feel comfortable, but then also
Hmm.
don't pretend if, like you said, on a file structure, I mean, we have and everybody has this in some way, shape, or form. There's a shared place to store electronic documents somewhere.
Hmm.
And yes, there is a air quote structure, but when you go into mine looks very different than John's does, than Susie's, than Paul's, than so forth. Because in mine, I've labeled things the way that I like to organize them, and they've done the same, even though we have a quote unquote file structure. So if you tell somebody, well, you should know where it is, but the reality is we've all made it our own, then at
Hmm.
least say that. Yes, you should know where it is, but the reality is we all did it differently, and so you're going to be better off going to ask somebody, and don't try to. You're going to spend a lot of time looking for it yourself. Just go ask, please. We all do
Hmm.
that. So you're talking about the social and the dynamics of the team. You're actually articulating them instead of telling people, "Welcome to the team. Figure it out, and figure it out
Hmm.
quick." By the way, because we're all busy.
Yep. Thank you.
That's
You
nice.
said that so much better than I did.
I just
That's why you're a
repeated what I
podcast host.
I just repeated what I heard you describe. It's so awesome because the way you're describing is like this should be normal. This should be commonplace. This is what we
It
should
should
be
be.
doing whenever you have people that have team members that come and go throughout wherever that life of that team is. And if we don't do these things, it can create a ton of anxiety, confusion, and stress. And so it's like, well, why don't
Absolutely.
we take a few minutes to do this? And like John, you said, the reason we don't do that is because we're busy. We got stuff to do. So you found just it's not even hitting the pause button. It's put a little energy into this side, and the payoff, I imagine, has been tremendous.
It is tremendous. It is. It's because everyone is coming to the team with different baggage. And if you can just get them to buy into like, this is how we're going to do it together, it's going to save so much time. Just finding a file. And I'll give another example here in terms of finding a file. I have found that meeting notes are like gold because 3 months down the road, a year down the road, people are going to say, why did we do this? And they're going to ask the architect why. And so obviously we have sign offs and all this stuff, and people agree to what we're doing and putting in the documents. But you need a history of that to kind of reflect on if need be. We have made a system. So if you're the one person doing meeting notes and you're in a 3 hour meeting, that's a humongous task. And it probably is going to feel very daunting that that's your task. Um, so we've broken it up into groups of people with senior folks and junior folks together on a team, working on the notes live together. And then we have a system of pushing it up. And then I would compile everything, including the whatever was shared, all the notes, the participants, which is huge. You need to know who's participating in the meeting. And it's a huge running document of what we've done and how we got there. But to really kind of help everyone understand where the information can be found, we had a decision tracker. So you can do a search and find every time you talked about elevators. If someone's asking about elevators, for instance. And it's easy. You can go and you can find every meeting we talked about elevators on. And it's like a dream because if you've ever tried to find something in meeting notes and you think, I know I wrote that, but you don't remember which meeting it was because you talked about elevators 20 times, you'll be able to find it because you'll know each section from each meeting that talked about elevators. So it's work up front, but the time that it saves on the back end is amazing. Being organized saves time. It sounds really simple, but you have to put time into it. And at the time, you may not think it's so important, but it ends up becoming important later.
So you also spend all this time, like you've shared, right? All these things, how the focus on culture and setting up behavioral expectations. How do you build that into your own?
I have a couple, like if we were to start a new project, we would have an internal, just internal 2-page meeting where we all got together and we went through everything that was on the Teams channel and where to find it. But we would kick it off with probably like do a fun fact or something like that just to break the ice, then go through all the stuff. And then we would have a bigger version of that with all of our consultants to make sure they know what the expectations are too. And stuff like culture and expectations in meetings. I have a few presentations on because we've been living in this virtual world for a while, but the way we were conducting meetings for North Austin may have been very different than other teams were the way they were conducting meetings virtually because we were all kind of separated and working on our own. So I would go over all that too because I think the way we've set things up for the projects I've been working on, the expectation is that if you are presenting, you should be on camera. If 4 people helped you with that presentation, those 4 people should be on camera because they are there supporting you. And then any major participant should be on camera because you need to be able to read the room. When we're virtual, we miss a lot of the cues. If someone crosses their arms or whatnot. But there's still visual cues and there's still cues in people's voices to pick up on. Go ahead, Kyle.
I was going to say, so you have this conversation up front before you even start working on things to say, you mean people aren't wondering whether or not they should be on camera? They're not wondering whether or not they should, like how am I supposed to act and behave and participate in this meeting? You actually spend time up front to say, this is the expectation. And nobody gets upset and says, we don't have time to talk. We're all professionals. We know how to do all this stuff. We'll figure it out. We got work to do.
You know what's funny? I know we're all professionals, but I'm in meetings that people are ordering food on a takeout or something. You know what I mean? It's like, oh my God, how is this possible kind of thing? And I am an absolute firm believer that whoever is running that meeting should be muting them as soon as humanly possible because no one is paying attention to the meeting. They are all paying attention to whatever is happening when they're not on mute, and they should be. So, people go on mute. It makes life better.
So it's not necessarily you have to drop everything and stay 100% focused in on the meeting. It's if you are going to do other things and you're not presenting and you weren't part of the presentation, it's okay for you to be off camera. It's okay for you to be on mute. You're gathering this information
Absolutely.
however you see it. But you're acknowledging that that's okay. People aren't guessing is what I'm getting at.
Yes. And absolutely, we all know what happens in meetings now. People are definitely doing more than one thing at the same time. And so if you're not in the hot seat, it's okay that you're doing things. You can listen in, and that's great because you are gaining knowledge on other things that are happening on a project that you maybe aren't necessarily fully involved in. And it's okay if you're doing something else and listening on mute and off camera. But we had an exorbitant amount of meetings. I have 848 recordings from North Austin, OACs, the big room was recorded. All the user group meetings were recorded, and any other one-off meeting was recorded. What wasn't recorded was poll planning because we had a lot of tough conversations in there. And I didn't think we should be recorded. Not that we didn't have any tough conversations in other meetings, but I felt like it shouldn't be recorded out of respect for all.
Sure. And I imagine you were intentional too with the group. It was the group's decision. Should we record this? Should we not record this? Which one should we do? But it's that constant, when I'm hearing the constant ask of the group to go, we need to clarify some of this stuff. We don't need to be spending time making it up all the time, whether it's where we put stuff, how to bring people on, how we're going to behave, how we're going to talk to each other. It's that level setting, or at least getting a buy-in at the beginning. And this can be on it goes back to any team, any group of people.
And I think really, Kyle, I think a lot of this stuff came out of constant improvement and really looking and saying, where can we improve to make us work better together, and kind of get rid of the waste. If something wasn't working, we wanted to stop. And if we felt like we needed to do something, it became a priority. So we did reflection sessions like that regularly after a big milestone, which is another thing I don't think a lot of teams do. You know, you issue a big package and you kind of go into recuperation mode. And usually that's when people have a lot of complaints. You know, why are we doing this like this? It's such a waste of time, or, you know, stuff like that. It's a really great time to capitalize on that after you issue a big package. And people will be very frank about it.
That's cool. Well, I hate to say, but we are out of time again.
Oh my gosh.
I know, right? It goes quick.
It does go quick.
It goes really quick.
Well, we were laughing for a good 10 minutes before we started recording.
Yeah, good thing that stopped so that we could actually get to work.
Yes.
That's right. So. None of this culture building stuff, no fun. I mean, we had music playing and all, but anyway.
We did. We finished Jeopardy before we started this. Now, I mean, I think this is super helpful. I really appreciate, you sharing more about, some of this is even the very tactical kind of pieces, but it's helpful, right, for folks to go, well, yeah, we've never thought of doing that before. Or this is how I could actually put it together.
Or it's okay to spend time on this, because sometimes people are like, why are we caring about this? But it actually is important.
Yes. It is so important. Yeah. Rhona, thank you very much for spending more time with us.
Well, let's have more fun together.
That's right. We absolutely should.
I love it. What's your walk-up song?
My walk-up song is Lizzo, Good as Hell.
I like it. Sweet. Had I thought about that and could prep with you ahead of time, I would play it even as your outro. That would have been great.
Man.
I'll remember that next time. Cool. Yeah, Rhona, thanks again. Listeners, you want to know more? Reach out to us. You can find us all on LinkedIn. You can check out Ripple Intent. Participate in any one of the events we have, breakfast clubs, cities all over the country, our annual symposium. We'd love to hear from you, love to see you. With that, we're going to see you next time on the next podcast.
Thanks, guys.